Я понимаю, почему вы все отрицаете.
Я иногда думаю, что она лучше, когда она улыбается, когда она сидит в саду, смотря на небо. Она тогда счастлива. Но потом все равно. Вера? Вера? Вера, все в порядке? О, дорогая, ты никогда не принимала лекарства. Спи спокойно, моя любовь. Мы увидимся завтра.
Вера! Завтрак почти готов. Прийти поесть. Вера! Давай прийти, завтрак почти готов.
Почему ты плакала прошлой ночи?
Я не плакала прошлой ночи, мама.
Я слышала, как ты плачешь.
Не я, мамочка.
Я просто волнуюсь. Я не хочу, чтобы ты снова заболела. Ладно. Тогда я позвоню твоему плохому отцу. Это я. Вера снова заболела. Почему это происходит с ней? Миша, ты слушаешь? Перестать что? Сколько раз я тебе сказала? Хватит говорить, что она мертва. Она здесь!
Потеря ребенка – это очень сложное испытание.
Как вы можете так говорить? Моя дочь дома. Ждет меня, чтобы я приготовила обед для нее.
Я не смогу вам помочь.
Well, thank you for watching Vera. That was an excellent short done by Matthew Vinaja. And here with us today is the writer and director himself, come to join the Grim and Bloody Theater. Thank you for coming on today.
No problem. Thank you.
Welcome, Matt.
I'll go ahead and start with the first question. When I was watching it, I didn't know what to expect. It felt like it had like a nice, slow, gradual pace, and then it just took a complete turn to the macabre, the grotesque. Now that everyone's seen it, the skeleton, and it immediately reminded me of Bates Motel. Was that your thought process going into it, like that kind of this person is dead, but to me it's not dead, even though she in the film she had a realization that it is dead, but then she continued on with the illusions.
Well, the backstory of Vera is actually kind of it all kind of relates to why I did things the way that I did. So if you don't mind, I would like to go into the backstory of how this even
Absolutely
came.
Yeah, that's what we're here. We love behind the scenes stuff.
Cool. Yeah. So 2018 was a really hard year for me mentally, just going through a lot of things mentally, emotionally, and just kind of feeling lost in career and stuff. And kind of was in a really dark place at the end of 2018. And while I was at work, actually a job I wasn't happy with. And that was a major part of it. So at work, I would just write, like there was a lot of downtime there. So I would just pick my computer up and start writing. And within a short couple months, I had about 15 different short stories written, and they're all in the psychological realm. It's all about mental stuff. It's all about the horror, like real life horror. Yeah, skeletons are crazy and the shadows can be scary, but it's like the real enemy, the real fears is what you think. It's your mind. And so all the stories that I wrote are like that. They're all how your mind plays tricks on you and how you believe what you want to believe. And that's the scariest thing in the whole world, I think. Monsters and skeletons, those are, they look scary, but it's not, to me, it's the real fears are what you believe and what you think. And so that's what all my short stories were about. And so that I wrote Vera in September 2000, actually about November 2018. And then I was working on a film, the Between Two Ferns film with Zach Galifianakis, and we got put on hiatus for a while, and we weren't quite sure where we were going with the film. Not going to get into that, but so we got put on hiatus. Everybody kind of just lost their jobs, and so I was kind of going through a really rough time back in November, and then I still had the same job, so I still kind of was I wasn't happy. And losing my job and not sure how that was going to go. Because when you work in television or film in production, like you are a freelance worker. Like, once your show's over, once the movie's done, you're out of work and you got to look for something else again. And so when your out date's coming, it gives you time to prepare and like you start reaching out to connections. But it was a short notice, like, hey, we're shutting down. And I had no clue what I was going to do work-wise, but I did have time. And so I went back to those scripts that I wrote and I looked at them and I'm like, I picked one. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to shoot one of these scripts in the time that I have. And while I was working on the Ferns movie, I met the actress, Gabriela, and she was one of the audience coordinators because we used to do test screenings for the movies and for the movie. Ferns. And so I met her there and we clicked. The first day we met, we clicked and we exchanged numbers, and she told me her husband was a camera op, and we just connected. And whenever we would see each other at the Fern screenings and stuff, we would always talk about, we got to work together on something. And so since she partly worked on Ferns, whenever we were doing shows, she would go and coordinate the audience, and me working on the film, that shut down. So we were both kind of out of work there for a little bit. And so we were like, hey, let's get together, let's shoot this script, and let's go do it. And so we shot it in one day. And I was still kind of in that dark place that day. And I think for me, at least for me, whenever I'm in that mindset, that's when I'm the most creative. I feel when I'm happy and when I'm in a good mood, it's really hard for me to write. I know that might sound sick or twisted or something.
No, that's true. Yeah.
Like the more I'm at,
it's
the
weird.
more
it's a strange feeling, I can tell you.
Yeah.
But you need to find some kind of inner struggle or anguish or some kind of dark memory to get that horror going. Yeah, I totally understand that.
Yeah, and so like like I said, when I wrote that script, I was in a dark place. When I filmed the film, I was in a dark place, and we shot that film all in one day. But once we figured out we were going to shoot that script, my favorite movie of all time is different from what I think the greatest movie of all time is. I think the greatest movie of all time is Psycho. Psycho is
not a bad choice.
And in my opinion, the greatest movie of all time. And I will debate that with anybody at any time. But it's everything. It's down to Norman's character. And his mind is his enemy. Like his sickness is his mind. Like, and that's what that is. And you kind of see his sickness at the very end with his mother. So Vera is extremely inspired by Psycho, extremely. And it's in black and white because my favorite Hitchcock films are in black and white. And I watched 10 of his films and 10 documentaries before I even shot Vera, because I wanted to kind of nail his tones and his mood and the camera angles to the movements to even Bernard Herrmann's scores. And when I hired my composer, I made sure that he was a horror fan and he was a fan of Bernard Herrmann, because even the score is heavily inspired by Alfred Hitchcock movies. And so everything from just the idea to the look of it, the color of it, the script, like it was very, very inspired by Alfred Hitchcock Psycho. But I feel we did a pretty good a take on like a homage to him with Vera. So to kind of end this to answer so you talk about Bates Motel and Psycho, so this was definitely inspired by Hitchcock and Psycho for sure.
Overall was Hitchcock your muse growing up?
Funny, he was not. Growing up, I was a big Vincent Price fan. Everything
Yes.
I loved was Vincent Price and the original OG Universal monsters. To me, there's nothing better. Still to this day, there's nothing better than give me some Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein or Invisible Man. Give me some Claude Rains and give me some Alfred Hitchcock, and I'm good. And
I'm falling in love with you right now. This is awesome. Did you notice too that in your film and in the Psycho film, both of those have a theme. It's all about grief. It's all about for Norman, a lot of it is about he can't let go of the loss of his mother.
Right.
He can't. In Vera, it's about she can't let go of the loss of her daughter. And as was pointed out, you have a scene where she is carrying the corpse. She realizes it's a corpse, but then she goes back to her daughter is at the kitchen table and is eating and so forth. It's almost as if she's saying to the audience, I'm not ready to let go.
It's more comfortable that way.
Yeah.
Right.
You're right. Exactly. Facing reality is a lot more difficult than living this fantasy. Is that something that you were kind of going for?
Absolutely. So the way the movie started and the way the movie finished were the same exact thing. She wakes up in the middle of the night because she hears her daughter. And so with me personally, like with my own personal experiences, depression and being, in this mindset, it's kind of, it's a cycle. It keeps repeating. Like one day you're good, for a week you're good, and then you kind of drift off a little bit, and then you're good, and then you're back, and then you're good, and then you're back. And for me, it kind of works that way. So I wanted to work that into the script where it's like for her mother, Oksanna, that's the mother's name. And so it's the cycle over and over and over again, where it's like, okay, she knows her daughter's dead. She's seeing a therapist, and the therapist is even saying, hey, your daughter's dead. And she's just like, no, she's not. She's in denial, but she knows though. And like I feel with anybody who kind of has a mental illness or is struggling with something, like you know you're struggling, like you know you're not where you should be, but you fight it, and it's kind of just the same cycle that kind of just repeats itself. And for me, that's where I was at during that time when I wrote that script. So I wanted to relate that to the mother, and so that's kind of how that came about. Yeah. So it's just, you know, whenever I watch the film, actually. To me, the saddest part, like the film makes me sad. Like it's not, to me, it's not really like a psychological, it's not a horror. Like it's a sad movie to me. And what makes it sad, like for me, the saddest part is when you see her bringing in the dead body into her bedroom, putting her on the bed, putting her blanket over her, you know, turning the light off and leaving the room. And then it flashes back to her face and then she wakes up again. So she wakes up every night every night to the dead face of her daughter, which sparks this, like, I got to go check on her. And it's just this cycle that just repeats itself over and over and over again.
I think as a parent, yeah, you can understand when you're that close to a child. Would you do the same? You know, would it be that it's easy to watch this and say, oh my God, it's a corpse, let it go, right? Bury it. But when you're a parent and there's a connection there that you've never experienced before, that you know in your heart you're not going to find again. Yeah. It's not that easy, you know.
What's hardest for her mother is, I'm not sure if you guys got this from watching the film, but the mom thinks it's her fault. You know, she has the headphones on while her daughter's choking. And so ultimately, not only does she lose her daughter, she feels that she's the one who killed her daughter. And so she feels like she needs to keep her alive. She keeps keeping her safe. And that's why she checks on her with the medicine. She's making sure she's eating. And she tucks her in at night. So she's constantly taking care of her because she's the one who felt like she let her die. And she can't cope with that. Like, she's not understanding that. And so so not only does she lose her daughter, but her marriage fell apart too. Like when she was on the phone with her husband, well, her ex-husband yelling at her, hey, she's sick again. And he's telling her, come on, like, you got to let this go. Stop already. And so just like, and it just shows that, like, okay, so they were married and they were a happy family, and like how much time has passed. So obviously this corpse is rotten. Like it's down to the bare bones. The husband's not even living in the house anymore. She's got to call him, and he knows she's going through therapy. So it's like, it's been a while. Like this girl, like Vera, didn't just pass away. Like she's been gone for a while now. And she's constantly dealing with the grief of it. Like you said, she's she has grief that she's the one that let her die. And so she's living with that every single day. Yeah.
I think with short films, and I want to commend you for this, Matthew, with short films, you have so little time to start the film and get the audience engaged. So little time to provide a center part of the film where you can almost kind of rest a little bit, take it easy, and then so little time to wrap it up and finally give them that final aha moment at the end where they say, oh, I didn't see that coming. I mean, the runtime on this is what, 6 minutes, 48 seconds, I think. I think that's
sounds
really
about
close.
right. I forget.
Yeah, I know it's definitely right or below the 7-minute mark.
Right.
You achieved a lot in very little time. How much thought process was said, you know what, I could probably stretch this out to 15 minutes, but it's shorter than 6. I mean, the script in itself has to move at such a rapid pace, but you don't see that kind of freneticism in the film. You see a nice gradual build up, a nice slow reveal, just like Hitchcock. You slowly unravel you get to the core of the problem, which was, as you mentioned, she's been dealing with this for a long time, and she's going to continue dealing with this because this is her comfort zone. This is where she wants to be, and that's where we're going to end it because there's nothing else we can do for her.
Yeah. Well, the first cut of the film was about 13 minutes.
Oh, really? That wasn't too off.
Yeah, it was over 13 minutes. I remember that for sure. The script was a lot longer than what we had right now. We cut a scene out We cut out a lot of dialogue because the scene where it's just a silhouette on the curtain, on the curtain, that conversation went on a lot longer. Actually, there was a pretty long conversation with with Oksanna and her husband. But we felt that it just wasn't needed. The conversation, it should have been kept short and kind of straight to the point, because the movie, yeah, we could have put more focus on the Oksanna and her husband, but the movie's not about them. The movie's about her daughter. And we kind of wanted to get, because I feel like too, because it's just a swaying back and forth, and it's awesome, and I love the way that we shot that. But if you're watching that for too long too, and you're just hearing voices, to us it kind of just dragged on too long, so we ended up cutting that conversation a lot shorter. You know, we had more conversation with the mother and the daughter when they were sitting eating breakfast. Yeah, it was just a lot longer, and we ended up we just cut a lot of it out because we just figured it wasn't needed. The shorter it was, the bigger impact it was. Because I watched a 13-minute cut, and then I watched the cut that we have now, and I'm like, oh man, like this just gets straight to the point. This is, you know, the skeleton of the project. This is what it is, and this is how it definitely should be. But I will say though, a lot of the editing, the way that it was cut, the final product, the final short is not exactly the way the script was written. We actually ended up taking some of the scenes and putting them somewhere else.
Really?
And it was actually supposed to be a montage, not like actual scenes at the kitchen table and being on the phone, the kitchen table, the reveal of the skeleton, the putting back on the bed. That was supposed to be like a 30-second montage that was going to happen to her right when she saw the skeleton. So she was going to see the skeleton face, and then all these flashbacks were going to come really quick, and then she was going to wake up again. But we decided that those scenes were they were too strong and powerful to be 30-second flashes. And I praise my editor for that, because he was like, dude, like we cannot have these as flashes. Like we need to show these scenes, the full scenes, for what they are. And he said we need to extend these scenes. We need to cut this stuff out. And my editor, Juan Cespedes, he's a genius in my opinion. And there was no doubt on working with him and hiring him to do the editing, because he nailed it, and he was a big part of the success for the film as well. So I definitely have to, give him the props he deserves too. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
When did the decision to, how did you come about the decision to do it in black and white?
Alfred Hitchcock, Psycho. That the whole story is really heavily inspired by the master himself, and so I felt I feel the black and white was
I think it's daring to say.
Yeah, but it was also very fitting too.
Yeah.
I want to say, because of just the place that Oksanna is in, a dark place. I felt like if we had color,
There we go.
showing kitchen tables and the sun outside, and the blanket that she was wearing, the blanket that Vera had was like it was like a blue blanket. Like I didn't want color in it. Like it's a sad, depressing story. There's no need for color. It's a dark story, so it should look dark.
You could say her life, was completely devoid of color at that point.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. No, actually, and Matt, I totally enjoyed all the acting in this, because it was so lifelike with the poor skeleton. Sorry, didn't mean to give it away, folks.
We already saw the movie.
It was in my body. But yeah, I did want to say how I enjoyed the therapist and her little role in this, where she just basically told the mom, hey, Oksanna, I can't help you anymore.
Right. Yeah, well, I had never, except our main actress, Gabriela, I had never met any of those actors before in my life. So a question that I get a lot, why in Russian? Why did you make this film in Russian? And
You just stole my next question.
This relates to the cast. So Gabriela she's Russian. She's 100% Russian. And when I met her, she talked about struggles of being able to find work and acting in Russian. Like, she's an actress, but she's never done anything in Russian. She's never been able to show her, her true kind of, just her lifestyle, her, who she is as a person. She's not kind of just playing a character in this movie. Like, she's being herself. She's speaking her native language. And to me, I knew I wanted Gabby to be the actress, and I wanted her to feel as comfortable as possible, and I wanted it to be as real as possible. And I think, going back to the term you said, daring, I think it was kind of daring, because not only is it in black and white, but it's also in a language that most people here in the States don't know, and so you have to read it. You got to read subtitles, and so going back to the actresses. So since it was in Russian, we wanted the therapist to also be full Russian too, because we wanted her to speak Russian, and so it wasn't like, she's speaking Russian, how come the therapist isn't speaking Russian? And so the cast was all casted by Gabriela as well.
That's good continuity, and I think that kind of eliminated the chance for any possible confusion between this person's Russian, this person's English.
Right.
How are they communicating? You don't have to worry about any of that, because they're all Russian and there's subtitles. And if we didn't know the filmmaker yourself, we would just assume this was a horror film that was done in Russia, right? And we wouldn't have to worry about it. We're moving on and we're focusing on the film itself.
Right. Yeah.
I have to say that Gabriela had the most impassive yet expressive face for you to be able to use in the film, and just an incredible job. Was that your first impression when she started filming with you?
Well, like I said, I had met Gabby, and I automatically started feeling her vibes just as a person, and I knew right away she was just a great person at heart. And just from our conversations and working together on the Ferns film, she's just a good, genuine person. And I knew that because sometimes you could be friends with somebody, but when you work with them, that's a completely different thing.
Right.
But she's an actress / model, and her husband is a camera op, and he did all the lighting for us too, and they are very passionate about what they do. And this was a total group film. Like, I would never take full credit for this film at all. They played a major part, and it wouldn't have been possible without Gabriela and her husband and all the work that they did, all the equipment they brought in, all the help that they did. And that just continues to just show how great of a person Gabriela is. And so when I said when I was put on hiatus from the movie I was working on, I knew I needed to work on something, and I knew it wasn't even a second thought. I knew I wanted to work with Gabby, because I knew she'd be fun to work with. And it was, we shot this entire thing in one day.
Really?
Yeah. It was.
I love hearing about that.
It was a 1-day shoot, and we, this was the third film. Well, besides the stuff I did in San Jose, I consider this like my third short film. So I've directed a couple things before, but this was the quickest, most effective film I've ever done. Just moving everything, everybody just being on point, knowing exactly what they needed to do, where they needed to be. Me just knowing exactly what my shots were going to be. The biggest challenge, though, and it was a joke the entire day, was I don't speak Russian. And so directing somebody who I
was going to ask if you're a Russian
language than what was very difficult. And so I kept telling Gabby, I'm like, you better not be fucking with me. Like, if you're this better be what you're saying on this script right here. I don't know. I'm just going to trust that you're saying the right line here.
Oh, what she could have said. Oh my goodness.
And still, even though we have subtitles, still maybe the subtitles are wrong. because her husband's the one that put him in. He did the titling for us, so they all still might be wrong. I don't know.
Well, that does happen. You wouldn't believe I've seen it on bigger budget films, feature films, where they have the actors, they're talking, and then you see the subtitles, which is usually derived directly from the script, right? The script is saying one thing,
Right.
and the actors are saying something else. The actors are talking in a more comfortable language, while the script is having more like an English version, right? Like a proper, we say it this way. But the actors are saying it in a more way that they would, translate to their own. And I'm like, this is so bad. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
I know you can see in more like indie films, it'd be okay, but even in yours was spot on. But for bigger films, I see that all the time, and I'm thinking, come on, gee whiz, guys, you guys must have at least a couple hundred people on set. Nobody's checking this, right? And don't you have a script director? You got to have someone who's looking at continuity.
This is another example on mine and Gabby's relationship. I trusted her, that she was nailing it, that she was doing what she needed to do, and she trusted me with not even knowing what she's talking about to direct her. So I feel that goes both ways for both of us. As much as I needed to trust her, she needed to trust me, and we did, and I think we made a great team, and it shows on the screen for sure.
Yes. I believe so, Matt. It was great, I tell you. It's definitely more fun than our collaboration.
I thought it was intriguing that, as I was mentioning before, just following up on it, that she, you kind of, when you're filming her, you do kind of let the camera linger on her face. There's a couple of tight close-ups and so forth. And she tells such a story about her character, sometimes without dialogue. And it's just in her face that she's got this grief. She's got this, she's got this stuff that she's dealing with. She's not really willing to let go. Is that something that you kind of saw when you were looking through, looking at the footage through the rushes and so forth?
Well, I didn't, I really didn't get to watch any of the raw footage as much, to be honest with you, but on set, she would always take a minute before we shot anything. Before we rolled the camera, she would take a minute and kind of get in that zone. Like, I think you have to take a minute to kind of focus on something in your life or get in a certain place or something to be able to pull off what she did. Because you're right, like, her eyes, like, she tells her story through her eyes. And I had always been able to see that. And I think that's one of the most powerful things about her characters. Her eyes tell her story. And you talk about the shots, and so I don't know. I'm not sure if this stood out, but there was not really any camera movement. Really, the only time.
I think we froze for a second. Did you guys?
We let the dialogue. We let Gabby. We let the scene. We let the set deck tell the story for us. My favorite, besides the curtain shot. I love that shot a lot. But my second favorite shot is when she's cooking the eggs. She's the camera's high. Her camera's way up here, and you kind of see the lamp in the foreground, and then you see her cooking the eggs, but you also see the kitchen table on the side, and you can kind of hear her running around and little footsteps and stuff, or you hear the cars going by, but you're just watching Vera in her moment, and it's not cutting back and forth to anything. It's Vera in her moment, and I think showing the characters in their moment still is very, very important for a film like this. There was no need for any movement. of the camera. And so I feel that the camera kind of played its own character on its own, but just kind of just being there. And that's how I wanted to shoot it too. I didn't want any movement in this movie at all. I didn't want any movement, and I feel we did a pretty good job with that. So yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
I feel like you ask me a question and I always end it on what the question was not, and then I'm expecting something else.
Yes, that's right.
That's all right. We just go with the flow.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it.
So you have other works that you put out there, right, Matthew?
Yeah, so in 2016, I put out a film called Toothless. It was.
Yay! All right, I'm championing.
Thank you. That film was fun. It was a lot of fun. You know, little cabin up in the mountains, actually here in Echo Park, out here in Los Angeles. But it was fun. It was about the tooth fairy. Instead of taking the tooth, she takes a child. That's kind of it. It's kind of a typical mother leaves for the night on a date. The babysitter is, you know, fucking around and has a dude come over and not watching her nephew, and a demon takes the nephew, and then, you know, then he also kills the babysitter, so his aunt. So it's kind of just, you know, your typical kind of, you know, 80s, 90s, you know, monster movie, and it was just fun. It was a fun movie. And then after that, we did a pretty much the same production crew. We did a short film called A Beautiful Place, starring Robert Mukes from House of Thousand Corpses and Tony Moran from Halloween. And that film was great too. We did the whole film festival route with that. We got into 25 different film festivals around the country.
Wow, nice.
And outside the country. And so that was really cool. That was a cool one too. And both of those you can find on my Vimeo page. And then so we did Vera next. And also last summer I shot the very first scene for my very first full-length feature film called Appetite for Sin. It's a kind of a grindhouse. It's going to be set in the 80s. Vampire movie, and it's going to be bloody, it's going to be gory. That the first scene is actually on my Vimeo as well. It's brutal. It's going to be a brutal one. So we got that, and we shot the first scene, and we use that. We're going to use that to do a Kickstarter here in the summer to raise money, and we're going to shoot the rest of it in November of this year. We were supposed to shoot it a lot earlier, but due to everything that's going on right now, we had to push it back for later this year. But so we hope that comes out Appetite for Sin 2021 October next year.
Yeah, guys, Appetite for Sin 2021. So where can everyone find you, Matthew? Where are you on the social medias?
I'm on Facebook just under my name, but on Instagram I'm at Hatbox Ghost. I'm a big Disneyland Haunted Mansion fan. And so it's Hatbox Ghost. That's my personal Instagram page. But Appetite for Sin is on Instagram too. You can find Appetite for Sin at Appetite for Sin, and at Appetite for Sin on Facebook.
Yes, great cast, by the way, in Appetite.
Thank you. Yeah, we have again Robert Mukes from House Thousand Corpses is in it, and my good friend Missy Sahagan is going to be one of the lead actresses, and we have Sherry Davis, Julianne Prescott, and we're introducing a few new actresses, and you know, and we have some other big names that we're going to attach to it too. Well, Ari Lehman from Friday the 13th is going to be in it. He's casting. Eileen Dietz from The Exorcist is going to be in it. And, you know, hopefully we'll have some pretty, you know, big announcements here later on to announce with more cast coming on as well.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
I'm looking forward to it because you're such a you're such an up and coming talent, and I'm, you know, based on this Vera, I really, you know, I really think you have a gift, and there's going to be, you know, the sky's the limit for you.
Thank you so much.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you. You know, I've been making movies since I was 15 years old, living in the Bay Area in San Jose. And Joe Flynn was actually one of my actors in one of my movies called Chloroform Girl. You know, I've been doing this I'm 30 now. I've been doing it since I was actually 16. So I've been doing, you know, little projects here and there for, you know, 14 years now. And it's always been fun. And just, and honestly, it kind of took me a while to kind of get serious with it. But I feel like I'm on a roll now, and with Vera, I feel Vera is the best thing I've ever done. I'm so proud of it. I'm very excited for it, and all the things it's done so far, and hopefully the things it will do when film festivals get started, and just kind of going with the momentum, going with the motivation of coming off something I'm very proud of and keeping it going. I was scared to do a feature. Features are very intimidating, and just writing one's very is very scary. So I wrote it, and we're going to start that here pretty soon. But also somebody I want to give a shout out to is my executive producer of Appetite for Sin, Joseph Kelly, who's also acting in it too. And he released a feature called Clown Motel that came out last year. And he's doing Clown Motel Part 2 that also got put on hiatus. And so he's filming that later on this year as well. So we're teaming up, and he's helping me, he's helping me with this one. And so the help I have on this is tremendous too. So having that great support system is very, very important. You can't do this alone. So.
Well, I hope to see your film at the Death Parade Film Fest 2021.
Hey man,
that'd be great for you to be there.
I have friends and family all still in San Jose, so I'm going to make sure they all get out there too. I'm going to travel for it, and I'm going to make sure they're all there, and we'll bring a whole crew.
You're officially invited.
Sure.
Would love to interview.
I know some of the family.
You do.
Duck cover.
I say we'd love to have you on stage and talking about your film and so forth. I'll be happy to interview you if you wish. Get you here to play.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then hopefully, and then by the time your film festival is next year, hopefully Appetite for Sin will be finished as well. So maybe I can talk about that a little bit.
You got a year and 3 months.
There we go. There we go. Yep.
Pressure's on.
I'd like to thank Matthew Vinaja for being on with us tonight. I hope you enjoyed Vera. It was an excellent short, and you got to hear everything that went on behind it, and that's what we are all about here in the Death Parade Theater, learning about what went into a film, all the little stories that you're not going to hear anywhere else. You're going to hear here. So thank you very much again. It was a pleasure having you on.
It was fun.
And thank you for tuning in, everybody. You have a great night.
Thank you,
guys.